Hey guys, hopefully everyone is doing well. We have completed some part of our question. We were doing, I think, problem number three. It is. Yes, it was problem number three. And a part of problem number three was journal. And we have completed journal entries up to February 24. Here you can see that this was 24th entry, February 24th, and we have completed it. I'm just reminding you that this question contains three major parts. We will complete journal and then we will convert journal entries into ledger, and finally those ledgers will be converted into trial balance. Right now we are on our first part where we are making journal entries of these transactions. Alright, hopefully now you have reminded that where we were and where are we up to and where we will go. February 24 is completed. Let's see what February 25 is saying. Cash paid to Mahmood. Its date is February 25, so put February 25 first. Now let's see what February 25 is saying. We have paid cash to Mahmood. Cash is going out, cash in hand is decreasing, which is your asset. Asset is decreasing, decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you are going to write cash on credit side. Since cash was an asset and asset is decreasing, that is why we have mentioned this cash on credit side. Secondly, see on February 25 you have paid this cash to Mahmood. Mahmood was the person to whom amount was payable and now you have paid the amount. It means Mahmood is no more account payable, no more your liability. Liability has been decreased. Decrease in liability should be mentioned on debit side. So you will debit Mahmood account payable on debit side. Though you have an idea, account payables are liabilities, liabilities should be mentioned on credit side. So why we have written Mahmood on debit side in spite of the fact that he was liability? Since after payment he was no more our liability, liability was decreased. That is why you are mentioning on the opposite side debit. Mahmood account payable to cash is our journal entry February 25th. How much amount we had paid to Mahmood? That is 80,000. So put 80,000 on debit side and same amount you are going to put on your credit side as well. Okay, entry is completed. It's time to mark it as it has been completed by putting a closing line after that. February 25th entry is completed. And now we will be looking for, sorry, mic was down. I'm putting it again. After 25th, we have 26th entry. So we are going to put the date first, February 26th is the date, and it is saying cash received from Qasim. You have received cash from Qasim. As cash is coming in, cash is your near asset, asset is increasing, increase in asset should be debited. So we are debiting cash because as an asset it is increasing. Secondly, you have seen from whom you are receiving this cash is Qasim. Qasim is a person from whom amount was receivable and now you have received. And since Qasim was included in accounts receivable which are assets, but after receiving cash is no more account receivable, no more amount is receivable, no more asset, asset is decreased. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you are going to credit Qasim in spite of the fact that he was your asset. Asset should be mentioned on credit side and now you are putting it to the opposite side credit. Why? Because he is now no more your account receivable. Assets are decreasing. Decrease in assets should be mentioned on credit side. That is why we have written Qasim on the opposite credit side. Entry is cash to Qasim February 26. How much cash we have received from Qasim is for 40,000. So you are supposed to write 40,000 on debit and same 40,000 should be put on credit side as well. This way we have completed entry. So now we are marking it as it has been done and we are putting an ending line after that. February 26th entry is completed. Next we can see is February 27. So put date first, February 27. Paid carriage. Cash is not mentioned, but indirectly we can understood that Whatever we will pay, that would be cash if it is carriage. Carriage is an expense and you are paying in terms of cash. That means your cash is decreasing. Cash in hand is decreasing. Cash in hand is your asset. Asset is decreasing. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you are putting cash on credit side because as an asset it is decreasing. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side and credit side is aligned on the right side. February 27. What purpose was the payment of this cash is carriage. Carriage is an expense. Expenses should be mentioned on debit side. So we are writing carriage on debit side. How much amount has been paid on 27? It is 1600. So put 1600 on debit side and same amount you are going to put on your credit side as well. This way you have completed your entry carriage to cash, and now we are putting an ending line to show that it is completed. February 27. Now let's see what is February 28 is saying. Put date first, February 28, and it is saying paid electricity bill. Again you are paying. What does that mean? After payment, cash will be decreased, cash in hand will be decreased. Decrease in cash means it should be credited. So we are crediting cash as an asset, it is decreasing. So decrease in asset should be mentioned on debits on credit side. So we have credited the cash. Secondly, for what purpose on 28 we had paid this cash? We were paying rent. Rent is an expense. Expense should be mentioned on debit side. So we have debited rent as an expense on credit side. So entry has become rent to cash February 28. 3200 is the amount. Alright, 32 is needed to be put on debit side and same amount 3200 is credited, and you are going to put an ending line after that, which means entry has been completed. February 28 rent to cash is the entry. After 28 we have February 29, and what it is saying February 29, there are two entries for the same date. So we can put February 29A over here to distinguish it. Owner withdraw cash for personal use. Owner had withdrawn cash for personal use. Whenever some amount is drawn by the proprietor, that is called drawings, and drawings means there is decrease in liability. We can discuss it later on. And February 29, cash is drawn by the proprietor. It means cash in hand in the business organization has been decreased, which means your asset is decreased. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you will mention cash on credit side because as an asset it has been decreased. So we have credited the cash. Alright, and why drawings are debited? For this we'll have to see the first entry where you have credited the capital. Any amount which is provided by the proprietor of the business is called capital, and capital is liability, and we have mentioned it on credit side. So amount which is provided by the proprietor is liability for the business, and when he is going to draw this amount from the business, that would be decrease in liability. So now here drawings is what? When he's going to draw amount from the business. If amount is coming into the business from proprietor, it is capital. Liability. When he had drawn this amount from the business, amount is going out. That means decrease in capital or decrease in liability, which should be mentioned on debit side. So you have debited capital, debited your drawings over here. So this way entry number 29A is completed. Now we can mark it as it has been done. And after 29A, we will be proceeding to second 29th entry. We are paying salaries. So just write down the date February 29B, where what we have done, we had paid salaries. When you are paying salary, it means cash is going out. Cash is your asset. Asset is decreasing. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So we are writing cash on credit side as an asset. It was decreasing. So we have mentioned on credit side. Okay. And for what purpose you are paying this cash? We had paid the salaries. Salaries are expenses. As an expense, we should mention it on debit side. So we have written salary on debit side. How much amount we have paid? 5600. So put 5600 on debit side, and same amount you are going to put on credit side, with which your entry 29B has been completed. So put an ending line after it to show that entry number 29B is completed. And here you can see this was your last entry. There were two 29th entries and both have been done, 29A and B. All journal entries in other way is completed. That means our first part of the question is also completed, where you can see that we have made so many journal entries started from here and gone downwards, and several journal entries. I think it's a jungle of journal entries which we had completed from February 1st to February 9. Hopefully you people have understood it. Now it's time to change our topic. First part is completed and it's not ending yet. First part has been completed. It's time to see the ledgers, and for ledgers what you will do, we will introduce the format, as it's not the first problem which we are doing. This is problem number 3, and we have already made several ledgers before this problem. Several illustrations we have done, 2 problems we have done, and hopefully you remember how to make your ledger. Ledger has 2 sides. One side is debit, second side is credit, and here you will put the title of the ledger. We have our date, we have particulars and amount on debit side, and same date, particulars and amount is present on credit side. How would we make this journal and this ledger? We will go and select the title first. For example, you are selecting cash. If cash is present on debit side of journal, please be attentive what I am saying. If cash is present on debit side of journal, this is your journal, so we will choose debit side and we will put the amount on debit side. If title is chosen cash, we will go and see where cash is present. If cash is present on credit side, we will go to the credit side of the ledger as well, and we will put amount on credit column of ledger. So rule is very simple. If cash is present on debit side of journal, we will choose debit side of ledger as well. If cash is present on credit side in journal, we will choose credit side of journal as well. This way we will be completing our ledger. Just take a short break and we are coming back, and we will be completing our ledgers. It's a short break of just few seconds and we are coming back. Thank you very much for your time. We'll be meeting soon again.